So one of the common problems that people run into with SQL Server backups is that if you have a good backup strategy and you're doing frequent log backups, differentials, and fulls, eventually your SQL Server logs end up looking like a backup history log. And we can see here backup database succeeded, page down page after page after page of all kinds of stuff about backup database succeeding and that your database was backed up. But what I really want to look at the logs for is to see when did something fail? When did a backup fail? When was there a problem? I don't want to look and see 10,000 lines that are all success with one line hidden in the middle that says something failed. What we can do to fix that is we can use what's called trace flag 3226. And if you're not familiar with trace flags, what they are is it's a way in SQL Server, like a startup parameter or a command line switch type thing that says, tell SQL Server to behave differently than what it normally would. So here we're going to go into the SQL Configuration Manager, look at the SQL Server properties. We go to startup parameters, and there's the default stuff in there about where your master and your error log and things like that are. But what I want to do is come in here and say -T, and that's the capital T for trace flag 3226. I'm going to add this here. If you have a typo in there or something, odds are that your SQL Server process won't restart. You can add that and then just assume it's going to work on your next SQL Server restart. I'm not comfortable enough with that. So what I usually will do is I will add it. I will then stop my database. And of course, you'd want to do this after hours when you're not going to cause an interruption for your customers or your users. But I'm going to stop the SQL Server database. Great to do this when you're doing maintenance, maybe updates or something like that. And then once it's stopped, I'm going to then restart it. Refresh this screen. And then, of course, the SQL agent needs to be restarted as well. Okay, everything started up. I'm now going to go look at my error or my SQL Server logs, and we can see here's all the normal startup stuff that we saw that you get when you start up SQL Server, but there's nothing in there about backups. So I have a script over here that's going to run a bunch of backups, and then while those are running, we're going to jump back over to the log file viewer, and we can now see that there's no information being put in there. So all we're seeing is really the relevant information that's in the log file viewer. If you've got a few dozen databases and you're doing transaction log backups every few minutes, maybe every 5 minutes or every 2 minutes, you might end up with hundreds and hundreds of messages in here per hour if you don't turn on this trace flag 3226. With trace flag 3226, it just says don't write those things into the SQL Server log file unless there's a problem. All the normal places where your backups are logged to in MSDB, like your backup history tables and things, those all work as you'd normally expect. It just keeps it out of the log so we can really use the log as a way to find errors, not as a way to go and view page after page after page of a backup has been run successfully. My recommendation is usually or almost always to turn on trace flag 3226, and this applies in my experience to everything from SQL Server 2005 through SQL Server 2019, and it looks like it's probably going to be the same on SQL Server 2022 as well. That wraps up this quick demo. Use trace flag 3226, and the way that's done, just a quick check here, is it's a startup parameter, and you put in a -T 3226, and you always want to start and stop your SQL Server to make sure you don't have a typo, because if there's a typo in there, that will prevent your SQL Server from starting up. So if you found this lesson useful, you may enjoy our SQL Server Backup and Recovery course, available at stevestedman.com/backup. This course has a few hours worth of training material, everything from some horror stories and success stories, learn about recovery time objective, how to do backups, doing full backups, differential backups, log backups, viewing your history, some things on restoring backups, and how to pull back just a single table versus restoring to another server, considerations for ransomware, building your restore script, or other backup tools as well. Take a look at stevestedman.com/backup for more information on my backup course. Have a great day.